Tonight's meeting of the Albany County Legislature Law Committee. I guess the first item is to take roll.
So, Mr. Chairman, Kuhn.
Here.
Reedy.
Here.
Feeney.
Here.
Larillier. Here. McLaughlin. Plotsky. Here. Ricard.
Present.
Bergdorf.
Here.
And Wayland is excused. You have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much. Are you going to take 15, 17 out of order? Okay, so we're going to take, I guess we should approve minutes. Okay, first item of business is to approve the previous meeting minutes. Can I have a motion? So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Now we're going to go out of order, and we're going to start with item 15, which is authorizing an agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. regarding digital evidence storage and management and amending the 2024 Public Defender's Office budget. Is Judge Herrick here? All right.
I am.
Judge Herrick, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, folks. Thank you very much. I'm here tonight with John Strobel, who's one of my senior felony trial attorneys and director of operations for the Public Defender's Office, and knows a lot about IT things, and I don't. So this is a request for a legislative approval of a transfer of funds within our 2024 budget to provide funding for a first year of a 10-year contract with a new program for the Public Defender's Office, Axon Enterprise. It's as I said, a 10-year program, a total cost of $656,844 over 10 years, all state funds through the Harrell Herring statewide expansion funding. And this is to provide, allow our office to more efficiently store, manage, and access digital evidence, discovery evidence provided to us by the District Attorney's Office and police agencies necessary to defend our clients, and also to provide discovery evidence as required by reciprocal discovery to the people. This is, again, all covered by state funding. There's no county funds involved.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Judge Herrick about this? All right, motion? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, item 16 is authorizing agreements regarding Albany County insurance coverage. Is anyone speaking on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is the annual renewal of the county's insurance coverage, which was marketed through our broker, Arthur J. Gallagher. The renewal is essentially a flat renewal in terms of cost. The increases are slight. Liability is a flat rate increase. The increase that is attached to it is due to the budget increase. It's attached to the increase in the budget cost as well as wages. Med Mal is up slightly due to an increase in sheriff's emergency calls. And cyber is flat, which we were very happy about, as you know, given what's going on in the world with cyber. We were concerned about cyber, and that was late coming in, but cyber was a flat increase. The only other significant increase was property, which is overall not overly significant considering our reserves were increased. We did a total reappraisal for insurance purposes of all of our properties this year because travelers requested it. We have never done a appraisal of our properties for insurance purposes as long as I've handled the insurance. Some properties haven't been reappraised since the 80s. So all of our properties were reappraised, and as a result, our assessed appraised levels have increased by $100 million. So our travelers is up.
Does anybody have any questions for county attorney about this? Yes, Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Eugenia,
Are we still using Gallagher to
Yes.
price for us?
Yes.
Where were they in the cycle of their profession?
There's one more year.
So you'll do an RFP next year?
No, after next year. They have one more year.
Okay. How does this net out in terms of increased costs?
It's about $240,000 over last year.
Okay. And how big is the package?
It's in my memo, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. did I miss it? Okay, so it's just about 10%, yeah.
It's let me just find it in my memo. 2.464.
Yeah, I see that.
650. It's about $240,000 over last year.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question? Thank you. Just a quick question. So the biggest increase in cost, I assume, is because the property values. So if they had to be replaced, it would cost a lot more because
Contents.
construction.
And contents, construction and contents.
Okay.
So what we had been doing every time we would add a new building, purchase a new building, or shake a place, we redid it, we would go by construction cost or purchase price.
Okay.
Until we had to reappraise.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one. So were we underinsured?
Yes, by $100 million on all of our properties. We were hoping that we were overinsured and we could decrease it, but that wasn't the case.
Okay, any other questions? Motion?
Motion.
Second, great, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor, oh, we got to vote on it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is adopting Rensselaer County Business Analysis and Risk Assessment for accepting electronic signatures on contracts, amendments, and memorandums of understanding.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This request is to allow Albany County to essentially adopt a model that was adopted by Rensselaer County, allowing us to treat digital signatures the exact same as wet signatures. The purpose for this is to increase efficiencies by adopting a contract management system that will allow us to go 100% digital. The benefits of that are that we will be able to have a cost savings on paper and postage, improve the environmental impact, increase a lot of efficiency, reducing employee time spent manually moving around contracts, and reduce the overall turnaround time for contracts. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
Just a quick one. In my experience, digital signatures work great, very efficient, and somehow along the line, the originals need to be well documented and stored.
So we're moving towards a system. We've been looking at systems, a new contract management system.
Any other questions? Mr. Bergdorf?
Are we confident that this vendor is state-of-the-art?
So right now, this is just to allow us to implement electronic signatures. We have put out an RFP for a vendor.
Okay.
We are currently in the grading process.
All this is doing is giving us authorization to move to digitization. Under the state law,
Oh, okay.
we can do that, but we have to adopt a plan, and we're piggybacking onto Rensselaer counties.
Can I move it?
Yes. Okay, great, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No? Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, now, moving back up to the top of our agenda, it's my understanding that item 2 has been tabled at the request of sponsor. If I'm mistaken, please let me know. Item 3 has been withdrawn. Okay. Item 4, Mr. Simpson, are you here to talk about this? So item 4, I should just say for the record, is a public hearing on proposed local law number E for 2024, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending chapter 146B, or no, 146 of the Albany County Code to include a prohibition on the usage of hazardous waste ash in products.
Okay, well, essentially, what we're asking for is to make sure that toxic materials that come from waste ash are not included in any products to be promulgated. And there is an exception in here for the disposal of toxic material, but the main distinction here is to not include the promulgation of toxic material for sale and to be widely distributed at a time when we have a chronic climate change crisis.
What does this have to do with climate change?
Well, all of these elements can be osmosized into the atmosphere and contribute to the negative climate change, but also the fact that all of these materials, none of these materials are safe for human exposure. Arsenic, barium, cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury, nickel, all of these, even in small amounts, are very hazardous to human beings. And so the promulgation of this stuff becomes a health hazard. And as stewards of the public health, we have a responsibility to mitigate harm to our constituents.
Doubtless, but there's no supporting like memo or anything or analysis that's provided here, right? So let's just talk about this for a moment if we can. Hazardous waste ash is not the waste, it's not the ash from combusting hazardous waste, but any ash that contains hazardous waste. Is that how it's being defined?
Yes.
Okay. And so this legislation would prevent the use of, so that you've got any waste that any ash that has hazardous waste in it, this would prohibit the use of that ash in any product.
Correct.
Any ash containing
Yes.
hazardous waste.
Yes.
Okay. And then the products that ash is more, it's my understanding that ash is often used as a element in concrete, for example. Do we have some indication that stabilized ash in concrete, using such stabilized ash in concrete, is there some analysis or something out there that demonstrates that that's a public health issue?
Yes.
Can we have that?
Let me bring that to you, but the short answer is yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think from my perspective, I just would like a little more support from a policy perspective for why this is necessary. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but right now, I'd like to see a little bit more about why this is necessary and what the public health ramifications are. And if there are public health ramifications, is there a reason that the U.S. EPA or the State Department of Environmental Conservation isn't pushing things like this at a national or a statewide level?
Probably because it's not on their priorities. I mean, I don't think that I just had a large meeting with OGS and NYPA about taking the Empire State Plaza off frack gas from Pennsylvania. We have a proposed bill to do that in 3 years. They have a proposal to do it in 15. So the point I'm making is the fact that something may be deleterious and that government is not forthright in minimizing it doesn't mean that it's not an issue.
Right, and I just want to I want to see the analysis of its deleterious nature before we take action. So if we, and all we're doing now is scheduling a public hearing.
Right.
But that's the kind of, rationale for some of this that I'd like to see before we take final action on it. So I'll open up to.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
when you say you can't use something and manufacture it into a product.
Are you directing-
I'm thinking out loud. And I happen to be looking at you, I apologize. When you say you can't use ash to make a product, what happens if someone ships the ash out of state? Do we have any interstate commerce issues? How there are all sorts of incinerators that have beneficial use agreements for some of their ash. Who in Albany County is going to qualify what ash is toxic and what ash does not?
That would be the responsibility of our health department.
Our health department? And they have people who are familiar with all the various standards that DEC has. See, I'm a little concerned here that we are taking a responsibility that is currently DEC's responsibility, New York State Department of Health, and we're trying to, because they're not moving fast enough, we're trying to create a local law that I don't know how it goes beyond DEC standards, but I think we should know that. What's different about this law that DEC doesn't do in regulating, and I can think of 2 places that are regulated under the statute, other than the ones that we exempted that are our own. I'm not sure that we should be setting up a parallel set of scientific requirements, and is whoever's running the New York or the County Department of Health, have they been consulted? Do they have the people? Can they do an analysis? Do they have to go outside to do analyses? I mean, these are all things that should be done by DEC, in my estimation.
Well, to give you an analogous situation, we have a prohibition against producing frack gas, here in New York State, but yet we're still pumping in frack gas on a daily basis to fuel a whole 98-acre Empire State Plaza in contradistinction to CLCPA. So the fact that we don't have consistent standards by our state government doesn't mean that we should abrogate our responsibility on the county level to deal with issues as we identify them.
Any other questions?
Hey, just a follow-up, but actually, you said, Mr. Chairman, and my colleague, Mr. Berger, said, before we send this to the floor, none of us here, obviously, they're experts in, whether this is hazardous or not. It's not my expertise for sure. Should we get an opinion maybe from the Albany County Department of Health or the Board of Health before we send it to the floor, so we all have the accurate information, and we can make an accurate decision before it even goes to the floor for a public hearing, maybe table it, and then would you consider that? Just so we get an accurate assessment of exactly what the situation is. Because I don't know what it is. The public's going to come in, and they should come in and voice their opinion, but none of us are experts. So
Well, let me come back with some data, because I would not want to stall the public hearing because we don't have data before us, but there is, I think, sufficient data to justify what we're doing. So let's not forestall the public hearing. Give me a couple of days to get you the information.
Yeah, but
is that acceptable?
But Mr. Simpson, you didn't answer what I said. I want to get an opinion from the Albany, the Board of Health. Is that possible to get that before we can move forward? Rather, because regardless, your data, I'm sure it's very sufficient, very informative, but I'd like to get their expert opinion too.
Sure.
Is that possible?
Yes, it's possible.
So would you consider tabling it?
Well, what happens if I can get you a determination before the hearing? I don't want to table this if we don't have to.
Okay. But, so they're going to get everybody together and have a discussion, appropriate discussion, analyze everything that's going on? If they can do that before the public?
There is no Board of Health. It's just the commissioner.
Okay, so and there's, I thought there was a board. So can they Do you think the commissioner will be able to render an opinion?
Let me work on it and get back to you right away.
What do you,
Well, let's finish the discussion and we'll figure out what we're going to do, if that's all right.
Okay.
Possible.
So this, Mr. Sim, this prohibits only the mixing, combining, and blending of the hazardous ash with other products. It doesn't prevent those products from being brought into the county, doesn't prevent their use in the county. I guess they could still be created, the ash could still be created in the county and exported elsewhere. I was curious why you chose the mix, combine, and blend as what's prohibited, as opposed to other things that we could be also looking at.
Because it's the issue of combining the toxic material in things that are going to be promulgated. I mean, the whole purpose of this is not to make a commercial property out of elements that are toxic that could be widely distributed. That's what we're mainly trying to prevent. That's the major purpose of this. Which is different than us, disposing of things in a landfill, which is not to be promulgated for, monetary gain. The issue is not to use toxic materials for the purpose of commerce. It just doesn't make sense to be exposing people to hazardous material, just as an economic proposition.
Sure. So this would prohibit creating the product, it would prohibit creating this product in Albany County, but it could still, if someone was building a building, they could still import concrete that is already pre-mixed with this from outside of the county.
No, the intent of this would be to prohibit material that has these toxic elements from being imported and used here as well.
I don't get that.
That's not what it says.
It doesn't say that.
That's not what it currently says.
I think it only says mix, combine, or blend with any product. I don't see it preventing importation of products that have hazardous ash in them.
Maybe that needs to be clarified then, because obviously, we don't want the product to be promulgated in-state. We would not want it to be imported to be
Yeah, you
used
don't
as
want it
well.
brought in here.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want the toxic material to be used. And so maybe it was an oversight not to say, all right, I accept your concern.
Just a thought, I'm trying to get what the scope is now and what the intent really is and how to make it stronger, if that's what it is.
Okay. I started out by asking a question about what hazardous waste ash meant. And I see, I've had an opportunity to kind of look at the definition a little more closely. It says fly ash, any kind of ash, right, or slag, produced as a byproduct of incineration of hazardous waste. So it isn't necessarily that the ash itself has hazardous waste in it. It's that the ash is a byproduct of incineration of hazardous waste. And one of the questions I guess I would have is, there could in theory then be ash that was hazardous waste prior to being incinerated, but the ash itself no longer has hazardous waste in it because the hazardous character was destroyed by the process of incineration. But that, even ash like that, which could in theory be innocuous because it's no longer hazardous because it's been rendered not hazardous by incineration, would still be governed by this, right? So this kind of goes to what I was talking about before. I'd like to see some analysis of why we would apply this to ash that in and of itself might not be hazardous. So I think there's a few questions that have all been posed tonight that I think we should probably get some more clarity on before we move this legislation ahead. So for a lot of the reasons that we were talking about, I wonder if it makes sense to table this to get some of that analysis, get that clarification, perhaps get the opinion from the Commissioner of Health, and then take this up perhaps at our next meeting. Does that make sense?
Well, I would prefer not to do it that way. I would prefer to try to come back with information to not stall the public hearing. But let's agree that if I can't come back with sufficient information, that we will postpone it.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I get the sense that it's the consensus of this committee that we want to table this subject to resolution of our questions that have been posed. So I'm going to move to table this, to table the motion for the resolution of the public hearing. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. So I'm going to call a vote for the motion to table this pending resolution of some of these questions. All in favor of tabling this for the time being? Aye. Anyone opposed to the motion to table? Okay, so we're good.
Okay.
Subject to resolution of some of these questions, we're going to table it for the time being. Thank you, Mr. Simpson. So moving on to the next item on our agenda, number 5 is withdrawn. Number 6 is, I think, tabled by virtue of the fact that we tabled number 4. Item number 7, is somebody here on 7? Oh, this is Sean's yours.
That already went forward.
Just send me.
The tattoo one?
That
It's
went out.
Sam's.
Oh, was it? So what are we doing?
That's the local law itself, not the public hearing, the last one.
So is this table pending public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, so number 7 is the table pending public hearing. Number 8, table that requests a sponsor. Okay, number 9, I believe is tabled by automatically because the sponsor isn't here. Okay, number 10 is tabled at request of sponsor. Okay, number 11, is this going forward?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Ward, this is yours, right? So number 11 is the public hearing on proposed local law number M for 2024, a local law of the County of Albany, New York, amending chapter 288 of the Albany County Code regarding the welfare and safety of pets in vehicles. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This comes to us from members of law enforcement who have noticed, maybe not such a recent trend, but they've noticed it a lot more recently, that pet owners are traveling around with pets in the driver's area of the vehicle. And basically, this is, I'd like this to be more of a marketing law, but however, it is important for law enforcement to have some teeth in it because they're seeing it a lot out there. And I think a lot of times we react to tragedies and pass laws after the fact. This one would be a preemptive approach to something that law enforcement is seeing very frequently out there. And, I've talked to, this came to us from the New York State Police, actually. They've seen it on the thruway. And I talked to Sheriff Apple. He is very interested in this law. And in fact, he wants to do a whole marketing campaign in association with it and actually use it as a warning for the first time they start stopping people. They'll do a marketing campaign, hand out literature as a warning, just to make people aware that this is dangerous. This law is not very restrictive. It is, I've talked to a lot of people that are very involved in the pet community, and they've told me they think that pets should be harnessed in the back seat. And I didn't really want to go that far with it. I don't think, that might have been a little far stretching, maybe something we do at the state level. But however, for the county level, I think just an awareness thing, a common sense approach would be to not allow pets to be in the driver's area or in an area where they could distract the driver and cause a tragedy. And this is for the safety of the pets in people driving, in other people that are on the road, pedestrians. Again, it's not a law that's going to change the world. In fact, if you talk to law enforcement, they'll tell you there's 10 other things that they'd like the state to pass instead of this, but they're very interested in this because it is something they're seeing a lot of.
I would like to be added as a sponsor on this. So thanks for introducing this.
Thank you.
And I think the approach you're talking about in terms of passing this more the like public awareness, education, like marketing side, more than necessarily just the legal side of it is, I think it's something I think it's very worth it. So appreciate your introducing this. Very much in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. And, the one question, well, I'll let Mr. Bergdorf, he's going to ask the question about the penalties, I know.
No, I'm just going to make a statement. I
Yeah,
talked to
yeah.
Sean before.
Yep.
I am very generally in support of this.
Yeah.
Big pet people, all that. The only concern that, when we talked about it, some of our guys had, especially country people, dog jumps up in the pickup truck, sitting in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden let's make sure that that's not illegal.
Well, that is a good, with some, there are two-seater cars.
Yeah.
So that's the only, might want to caveat for that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can describe the driver's area more.
We do, actually. It's the driver's immediate area, which is known as the grabbable area, which is a well-defined term, or it's well covered in case law in New York State as something that is very well known to police officers in particular, because it's often used for drugs and things like that. But in this case, it would be used for it's what you can reach immediately.
It doesn't include the passengers.
No, it would typically not include
Okay.
passengers.
So I can still take Buddy in my convertible?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, as long as he's not like
Rolling free.
on,
Vicky,
yeah.
where you stand depends upon where you sit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
And the other thing that was pointed out was that obviously a violation, you could get a jail sentence from 15 days to a year, right?
No, 15 days. And just to clarify, all violations that are
Yeah.
permitted in the state of New York are punishable by up to 15 days in jail.
I have never seen anybody jailed for a first-time offense of
I haven't either.
of 15 days in jail.
We don't put anybody in jail.
Maybe the second, no, we're going
We're gonna put them in for having their dog in their front seat.
That's true.
I won't comment.
Okay, any other questions about this proposed local law?
I'll move it.
All right, motion.
Second.
Mr. Bergdorf. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Carries. So that's going to public hearing. So number 12 is tabled because Counselor isn't here. Number 13 is tabled. Number 14 is tabled pending the public hearing, and that is the end of our agenda. Can I vote for adjournment? Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you, everyone.